Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Creative Contact. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me in slightly overcast, but still mostly sunny, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Muchas gracias. Para... I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try my terrible porteña Spanish. It's different. It's different, y'all. Out here, it's got a little bit of an Italian twang to it. The words are different, but I'm getting there. Poco. So, what are we talking about today? This is going to be, again, another quick and dirty episode. I'm really doing these for my future self. So, if you're tuning in, I appreciate you being here, but this is really shout out to his future self, documenting the journey of the artist's life, the artist's way, figuring out what life means piece by piece, figuring out what I'm doing here on this planet, figuring out, kind of making these little time capsules for myself and maybe for my future kids, for my future family, to figure out, man, wow, Dad never had to figure it out. So it's helpful to know that, that even he didn't as a young man either. So yeah, y'all. So that's what we're diving into, is to figure out what's been going on, what's going on in my mind and life. Dropped a couple of gems, different things. A couple little stories here and there, things I got caught in the craw that I just feel like sharing. So, obviously, like I said, I'm still in Buenos Aires. I'm in this apartment here for the next month. I found another spot I'm going to be moving to in about 20 days. And really looking forward to that. My first couple months here have been rocky. Love Buenos Aires. It's mostly just been Kia. It's been like an internal kind of rocky piece. A little bit, rocky hitting the bag. I'm in the freezer right now. I'm in the cutscene. I'm in that rocky montage that takes like 30 seconds in the movie and takes like a decade in real life, of like the training before, the real fight. So I'm just in my Rocky montage in every sense of the word. It's Rocky. I'm in my Rocky montage, and I feel like my life has been pretty like, now I want to like say the Spanish words, but like flat for the most part, because internally it's been all over the place. So the quick recap is I've been here about a month and some change now, and I feel like I've grown a lot. I've been really trying to just get dialed in terms of like direction, in terms of physicality. I've been completely changed by my lifting routine, got my diet on point. I'm trying to get buff, you feel me? So the first time in a long time, I've been really kind of stepping that up, dialing that in. So I've been making sure I'm almost like kind of monk mode a little bit with the physical piece, and then really trying to figure out where I'm going creatively and career-wise at the same time. And I think that these kind of play together nicely because they for me, they go hand in hand. It's sort of this perpetual North Star as an artist, as an aspiring creative soul, who that for me is really, when I think about my day-to-day, what makes me the most happy, right? It's like, that's always kind of in the back of my mind, is like everything else kind of serves this greater purpose of creating things that really kind of fill my life with, make me happy. It's fill me my life with meaning, and they are super crazy. Right? I kind of already have my ideal day down. It's now figuring out how to make sure that I can continue to do that long term, and then also piecing in other parts to that as well. Like someday, having a spouse, partner, and then someday having kids around that as well. But to me, that all kind of reverses, back down to how to make sure my money's right, how to make sure, as Naval Ravikant says, I love it. His definition of happiness is fit body, calm mind, house full of love. And so right now I'm working towards all three of those. And I think it's interesting how my mind kind of kicks into hyper mode, kind of like crazy monkey mode when I'm not financially right. And so right now, it's definitely, that's been kind of my priority number one. It's like, no, I'm not going on dates. I'm not really going out. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm writing a little bit. And then I'm like, how do I just get a job and make sure that I can get this dialed in? So little update there. I was down to my last $1,000, and I was like, I'm going to bet this on myself, bet this on the house, buy my buddy's coaching program, go into the hole a little bit for this, and hopefully figure out, I was like, I know I can figure this out if I get someone to kind of put me in the right position. That's just the way that I roll. So went out on a limb, did it, and fortunately had my interview, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, had that interview and got the job, which is cool. So I'm starting this sales job tomorrow, and I've been kind of studying up on it this last weekend. And going into this, that's interesting because I'm kind of like starting again at the bottom rung of this sales world in a way. So it's kind of like an SDR, but it's in a bit, if you know what that is in this sort of sales world, you're like kind of your appointment setting is pretty much what it is. I'm spending the day on the phone, setting appointments, and then hopefully we'll be able to leverage that into closing deals in a couple months. So it's kind of like learning this offer and then leveraging those skills, kind of learning the sale process, learning the software, the CRMs, kind of how people, taking people to kind of a sales pipeline, all the skills that go into that, and then leveraging those into potential opportunities in the future, and then also building these skills that I could leverage on my own opportunity some point down the line once I have whatever my next business idea is. But in that sort of meantime, I was like, I want to kind of really focus on some sort of a skill that I can build and master that could be useful when I actually have my own thing that I'm ready to rock and roll with. So that's what I'm jumping into, is some sales stuff. I'm excited about it. I feel like it could be potentially lucrative. And in a few weeks, when I come give you a little update, I'll tell you how it goes. Seems like a cool team. The guy who runs it, he runs the sales team. The guy who runs the offer he's out there like teaching people some really cool stuff too. So I'm excited to kind of give you guys an update on that. So I'm looking forward to finally jumping into work again, kind of figuring out this work-life balance piece. And it feels like something that, like I said, I know I do my creative work best first thing in the morning. So that's kind of my main goal. It's like wake up, do my meditation, hit the gym and train, crank out some writing for an hour or two, and then jump in, hop on and start working the phones and start kind of, setting up deals to make some money and make that happen. So that's kind of my the work piece. I feel good about it. When I was thinking about, what are my special skills? I'm like, what's kind of comes naturally to me. It was things around talking and listening. I like, engaging with people. And I have done a lot of technical freelancing in the past, and I can do it, but it's not like I really love it. I don't feel like it's like my superpower compared to I feel like, I don't know, people are my superpower. I just like people. I like interacting with people. So I was like, I could be a therapist. I was like, I could do sales. I can do some. I was like, what are some? I was like, I could be a professor, right? I was like, I love to write, speak, and teach. But I think professor for me is there's sort of this dream around that. But I think it would need to be by profession, because I'm not going back to get a PhD. But I think I forget what it's called, but it's almost like a professor by, it's not by profession, but something like that. Where if you're like Kanye West, people can be like, hey, yeah, come teach this class on music. So it's kind of like, if I can get my pen game nice enough, and my writing nice enough, I could be a creative writing professor somewhere. I would just need to have enough, I think, published and be able to show enough for it to make one of those gigs happen. But I do like that idea of kind of writing, speaking, teaching as a professor. I think that's sort of in this natural wheelhouse of things that I get excited about and that I want to do and feel also kind of fit into my superpowers the world needs. But for right now, I was like, which of those three things, professor, sales, therapist, doesn't need any degree, doesn't need anything to get started. I was like, sales, baby. Everybody needs something sold. So going to kind of sharpen those swords, keep that iron in the fire, step those skills up, and then in the meantime, keep up my writing. And right now, there are kind of two. This is an epiphany I had last week. Was I've just been writing my little heart out, but I've been kind of changing the narrative voice a little bit from my last book that I published of short stories, which is very David Sedaris-esque. They're comedy short stories, which I love to write. I love comedy. In another world, if I could stay up past 9 p.m., I would have been a stand-up comedian, but such is life. Not in this world. In this world, I go to bed at 9, and you can't stay up past midnight for the life of me. So I'll be a comedy writer. But I've been I wanted to dive into some deeper shit. So I've been kind of pivoting away from that a little bit and experimenting more with kind of narrative voices, both in the second person. I've also been experimenting more with kind of raw, raunchy, gritty stories, things that are still true to life, but are less of a comedy lens and more, maybe a little bit more emotional, I might say, maybe a little bit close to the bone. And it's been really exciting. Some of them revolve around relationships. Some of them revolve around other ideas. I want to dive into too much yet, but things about masculinity and insecurity and ambition and this sort of interesting mix that we all are of ideas, and some things that I kind of work through mentally, often alone, and have been finding some solace in writing about them, but writing about them less in a Dear Diary way and more in kind of encapsulating them in stories or in relationships and things of that nature. So I also, at the same time, have been toying with the idea of doing something. I hate these little yappy dogs. I'm sorry, y'all. Latin America, you know I love you, but fuck your yappy dogs. Is this idea of, like writing my own Eat, Pray, Love. I'm calling it Eat, Pray, Thug. It's like this, like my own like travel memoir over the last 5 years, because I think there's something really powerful about being able to go to these places, have these experiences, which I feel really grateful to have had, and then being like, hey, let me put you there, you know, and also talking about different things I've learned along the way and reflecting on them, and almost in doing so, it helps me kind of like, it makes the memories more concrete in a way. And I think that there could be something really powerful sharing what life can be like when you are in these other places, that I think a lot of times people have a misconception that you either not need a lot of money to do it, or you just need people like, oh, I'll do that when I'm retired, X, Y, and Z. And it's interesting sort of being able to live these things and experience these different cultures that I feel almost compelled to share. But they're two almost like very different beasts. So like I said, I've been writing, and this is the way that I kind of found it in the last story too, is I'm not a guy who like makes an outline and is like, here's my book, I'm following to the T, and now I'm writing the book. It's like, I just kind of write. I just write. I'm a prolific guy, even with the songs, right? I was doing a song a day. Like, I like to create things. And then it's almost like this mosaic of pieces that I'm not able to quite see the picture clearly. I'm just kind of like putting pieces together, like little analogies or short stories or these sort of like entries. And then as I kind of go, the mosaic kind of like starts to like form a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I have something kind of coming together over here. It's something kind of coming together over here. And I was like writing kind of like travel memoir pieces in these sort of like gritty love stories at the same time. And they were like, they didn't really mesh, although they obviously a lot of the love stories were from the last 5 years. So they obviously had some kind of travel component of like, they were from a different place. But I was like, Kia, let's focus, when you do the travel shit, like let's focus more on putting people there. Like, let's describe the place. Let's make the place almost a character in the story, kind of like Liz Gilbert and Eat, Pray, Love. And with the love stories, instead, I'm like, let's make the partners, like, let's make the people the focal point. You know, it's like maybe these ideas or themes that I've learned from relationship, from being in a relationship, and then like making sure that those are the focal point. And I think, I don't know about you, but like in terms of me, I think a lot of writers, some can do both. I think a lot of times writers, they fall into like almost two camps, where it's like you are great at creating worlds and like plot and storyline, or it's almost like more like you're good at describing things like poetic and like detailed and maybe a little bit more like personal and candid. And I think obviously, if you know me, I think I fall into the latter. Like plot story building is much, sometimes not, at this point in my career, I'm not super interested in it. I love reading that. I have some killer recommendations to talk to you about here in a second. But those, I wouldn't say like the idea of like building a world for someone is really exciting to me. What I love, go figure, this is what I was telling you about at the very beginning of this anyway. Speaking of, I like people. I like people. Like, I like to meet people and like a relationship, whether it's a brotherhood, like romantic, parenthood, like relationship and interpersonal, to me is like what is, I'm forever fascinated by describing that, describing people and like small intricate things about them and how they look. Like the people to me are almost the world more than any plot driven story. If you read any of my short stories, you'll see that too. Like they're sort of like funny ideas that happen in these sort of like small moments, but they're often based around people. And it's the same with this. You know, I was like, there are certain experiences and things I've learned over the years and still learning, you know, continue to kind of process and work through. But a lot of times those ideas are most potent when I'm in relationship with others, because sometimes you need those sorts of either challenges or reflections to learn. I find I learn the most about myself when I'm in romantic relationships in particular, but also, you know, there's things around friendship, brotherhood, shit like that. So I'm thinking, what the whole theme of this is, I'm thinking of it being almost like two separate things, where it's like, I'll have this first one, it was like 2 nights ago, I was tossing and turning, I was like, just thinking so much about this book, and like, how can I piece it together? I was like, Kia, calm the heck down, go to bed, we'll figure it out later. But like a tentative working title. I'm working with Lessons in Love is kind of the first one. It's sort of like I want to talk about things like addiction and masculinity, manhood, love, things that I think are important, family, that I've learned from relationships. And then also like really creating these sort of like 3D, I don't want to say caricatures because these are real people, but obviously I'm embellishing them some, I'm creating them in a way so that this will be fiction, semi-autobiographical. I promise I went to school, I can speak like a real person, but that's kind of what it is. It's like based on real life, but I'm also kind of like leaning into these stories and these sorts of relationships with different partners. And so that to me is really exciting. Maybe like 6 different life lessons, 6 different experiences with love, or maybe 8. I'm still figuring that out, but like diving into those and creating some sort of like mixed media thing where it's like part poetry, part like personal narrative, and then also be like part story. And so if I can weave those together well, I think it could be something kind of cool and unique. And then over here, these are like the travel stories where it's like, ride like the motorcycling across Vietnam or something like where you're like, I learned this from this experience, but it's less about like really going poetic and specific with the individual, and more like an eat, pray, love sort of thing where it's like experiencing the place and the food and the people and creating this sort of a tapestry that I can sort of like bring people in to be like, yo, check this out. Even if you've never been, like, this is what it feels like to do this thing. Because I think that there's a lot of value in just painting pictures for folks, like in terms of different places, different cultures. And obviously, I have only my own experience. These are going to be like very incredibly accurate. It's like, this is Kia's 2 cents on what happened. This isn't the gospel on it. But having that almost be like its own sort of travel thing that could be structurally, I'm still trying to figure out like maybe how to tell that. Like, I'm not sure if chronologically would be the most exciting, but like maybe reverse or something. I could Quentin Tarantino shit, jump around a little bit. An idea even had is like maybe have themes there too, like lessons I've learned around like friendship, and then like little anecdotes like Guadalajara 2020 or like Hanoi 2019, and like have different just small, almost short stories, kind of analogies that fit into those kind of themes, rather than being like, I started here and I ended here. But who knows? I'm still kind of like, that one I've kind of put on the back burners for a hot second because I've been like really high on, I've been reading a lot of, I don't know his president, it's Juno Diaz, but this really cool Dominican author who I'm obsessed with, also shout out Cornell, alum, and been like, I'm doing my own like DIY MFA, right? I'm just like studying his stuff, kind of stealing ideas from him. I just finished this book I loved called Cherry. It's by this guy named Nico Walker. Crazy story. This dude he was kind of like just like kind of your normal Cleveland white dude. And then he went to the army as a medic. He went on like 250 missions. He came back. He got addicted to heroin. And then he starts robbing banks because he's such an intense habit and he has no money and no job. And so he's like, it's like this twisted love story. He starts robbing banks and ends up in jail, and then gets people ask him to start writing about his life. And he becomes like this crazy author. So I like reading that, but like these perspectives that they feel are like gritty first and second person narrative that I've been really loving and experimenting with. So it's cool. It's kind of like a new style, kind of like a new tool in the tool belt that has been fun, but also, it's a lot of work because it's just your boy. So it's not like I have a teacher right now or anything. A couple coaches I've worked on in the past, would love to send them stuff, but right now it's just a lot of reading, analyzing, trying to incorporate those elements into my own work, and then just doing the push-ups, just like writing, kind of getting a feel for it. And so that's kind of the creative juice, the creative projects for where I'm at. Yeah, like I said, I keep it short and sweet, to the point-ish, although it's still 20 minutes. I don't know how these end up as 20 minutes, but that's where I'm at. I'm at, back up against the wall. By hook or by crook, we're making this happen money-wise, starting the sales gig, gonna learn mastery, it is cool though. Sales is a cool thing. I've been taking a lot of online courses, kind of in the afternoons. I've been going through these different courses, learning about it. It's like this cool mix between psychology and persuasion, communication, and storytelling. That it's like this, it's a cool skill to have. So I'm excited to kind of like get that sort of like that Jedi force You know, it is almost like the Force, like the persuasion you can use it for good and evil. So I'm excited to like learn that. Then obviously in the meantime, I'm going to keep writing too and see where this goes. That's the North Star. Thank you for tuning in. As always, appreciate y'all. I'll check you in a couple weeks, hopefully with some better updates. I'll see you then. Peace.